Hi guys, so this weekend I am working on my beater car. This is a Lexus ES350 and this is a 2008, and what I'm doing is changing out the transmission fluid. So this thing has 131,000 miles, and I have never done a transmission oil change on this car. So this is the first time that I'm doing it, so I just want to kind of show you. You can see it's draining, so I'm just going to walk you through the process. So basically what you need is there's this cover that is covering this part. There are two 10mm bolts, so you need to remove those 10mm bolts and get this thing out of the way. But before I did this, you need to jack up your car, and I'm just checking it up from one side. Make sure you have a jack stand for safety, just in case if this thing fails, at least you're not dropping the vehicle while you're under it or something like that. So lift it up, make sure it's nice and secure, make sure your parking brakes on the back side is engaged, and then what I did was I loosened up this bolt. It's very important that you make sure this thing can be loosened up, so this is a 24mm, and I just use a big leverage to open this thing. It's not too tight, in fact, because it doesn't really need to be too tight. It's just a fill bolt, and by removing this part, you're just trying to get to it. But remember, once you remove these two bolts, it's not going to come off, because there's a third one right over here, and right here, you can see. And you don't really need to remove that. You can just swing it down and up like this. So that's what I did, just get it out of the way. Loose that thing up. You probably need a long bar like this, because it requires a lot of stress. So you may have to get under it, under the car, and just yank it open. So I was able to open it up. And then so remember, 24mm for this one. And now you also need a hex, which is this guy right there, and this is a 6mm bolt, and you really need this, and you need something a little bit longer, and I'll tell you the reason why. So this is the transmission bolt that is under your transmission pan. So let's get under the car so I can show you. So right on the driver's side, this is your transmission pan. Now sometimes people remove this pan and they change the filter and all those things. I'm not doing that. I just want to go ahead and drain the fluid that is inside the transmission pan, and just replace it. Whatever comes out, I'm going to put in whatever goes in. So, but if you are changing the filter, then you need to remove all these bolts. There's one bolt right there, which is very hard to get to because of this strut right there. So you have to fight with that. A lot of aftermarket gaskets that comes with this pan is not the same as the genuine Toyota or the Lexus. So I'm going to highly recommend buy a genuine gasket. Otherwise you might be able to, or you might, in fact you will run into issues, because all the aftermarket gasket that comes is a rubber gaskets. So once you put the rubber gaskets, the torque is not the same for rubber as it is for the genuine Lexus gasket, because the genuine one has metal in there, so it has rubber outside and metal inside. So the torque specs is a lot higher on the metal gasket versus the rubber. So if you just pick up a aftermarket and try to torque it to the same what Lexus recommends, is going to be a mess, and it's going to leak for sure. So you don't want to deal with that. A lot of people made that mistake, and they couldn't figure out why it's leaking, and then they end up buying the Lexus one, wasting a lot of fluid and all that stuff. So don't do that to yourself. Just go and buy a Lexus one and torque it to the proper value. Anyways, I don't want to play around with any of this. My car has a lot of miles, so I don't want to drop the pan and change the filter or any of that. So anyways, so as you can see, now make sure the car is nice and cold. Don't drive the car before you change this fluid, because then you won't be able to measure what come out, because it's going to be warm fluid, and you're going to be pouring in cold fluid in there. So you definitely don't want to do that. Anyways, so as you can see, I just drained the pan, and then about this much came out, which is not a whole lot. So this is a 4 quart. So this is in liters. Let's turn it around so you can see it in quarts. As you can see, like, you know, maybe 1 quart came out with just like that, and it's still dripping. Now you take the same 6mm that you opened this bolt with, and you stick it inside, and you open up the plastic thing. So there is a plastic bolt in there, in fact, and you may want to take this out. Oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it by hand or not, but let's try it. Now that plastic thing is very brittle, so you want to be careful that you don't break anything. And if you just stick it in, oops, it might not be long enough. There you go. There you go. It's coming out. So there you go. See, I just loosen it a little bit, and it's already started to pour out. Now once you take the whole thing out, you're gonna have a lot of oil. Okay, so I couldn't get the whole thing out. Clean this and put this back in there. Also make sure you have some kind of cardboard or something so you don't make a mess. And I'm kind of trying to video it at the same time as I'm doing it, so it's kind of hard. Just to make it a little bit longer, I'm putting an extension there. Let's see if you can get this out. Oh, it's very hard, so I may have to put it back on the wrench because it's not. There you go. You can see the plastic piece coming out. Oops. You can see I already made some mess right there. So always make sure your can or your catch can, whatever, is in line. And you can already see it's like a red thing, reddish. Let's try to. There you go. Now you can see how much is coming out, in fact. So, and again, we're gonna replace it with whatever comes out. So I'm just gonna sit on it, let it drain, whatever comes out, and give it some time, maybe like 15 minutes or so. I'm gonna give it so it can trickle down whatever comes out, and then we'll replace the fluid. So I can already see it's not a whole lot, so we'll come back. Okay, so this is the plastic piece that goes into the transmission, and you want to be very careful with this. You don't want to over tighten this, so when you're tightening this thing, make sure you don't put a ratchet and try to torque it down, otherwise you're going to break it and you're going to have a bad day. So just hand tight it, that's enough, and then just take this and make sure you clean it and put it back. But you can see it's pretty much done, and what came out of it is not even 2 quart. It's more like, it's like 48 ounce, but right now it's not on level surface, so I'm going to remove it once I'm done, and I'm going to put it on a level surface and then see what came out, and then I'm going to replace it with the exact same amount of fluid, maybe just a hair bit more because I had some spillage, but not a whole lot. And to pour it, we're just going to pour it from the top, that fill hole that is right there. So now another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this a little bit just for the air to get in, just in case if there is any friction. So no, I think we're good. So I don't need to leave it open until I'm ready. So let's go ahead and put this red thing in, and then we're going to put that and tighten this up and clean it up from the bottom. There you go, I can already feel it. It's nice and snug, and just leave it there. Do not torque it. Okay. Now we're going to take our this bolt. Pick this up. Oops. There it goes. So you don't want to overdo it too much, you know, just enough for it to hold, and I think it's nice and tight. And that's all you need from the bottom. As you can see, the oil is kind of like, still have some reddish, but it's more like brown. It's just a hair above 48 ounce. I'm probably gonna go just a little bit more than 48, and then that would be it. Okay, what I did was I poured that into another bucket, and I used the same level as I marked it. So what I did was I took a Sharpie and I marked where the old level was, as you can see, and I pour in just a little bit more just to compensate for that loss and anything extra, excess, whatever, you know, that may have gotten lost during the drain period, you know, since I did spill some. Now this is the oil that I'm using. This is Valvoline Max Life multi-vehicle, and one thing you want to make sure is it is Toyota WS compliant. So here you can see it tells you Toyota Lexus, and it is WS compliant. So that tells you it is the right one for your Lexus or Camry or Avalon if you're doing it. But it has all these different types, you know, that it's compatible with. So again, this is the one. I'm going to leave a link in the description below in case if you're wanting to buy it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hand pump, and I'm going to use this to pump the fluid from here into the transmission. And again, make sure you compensate a little bit for the loss in the pump as well, and the lines and stuff like that. So a little bit more would not hurt. So I'm going to go ahead and pump it up. Okay, so this is my process, the hand pump, and the bucket is here with the new fluid, and here it goes. I'm not going to be able to record this process because I can't find my camera stand, but all I'm doing is just putting one end in there and just pumping it until all the fluid is empty into the transmission, and then we're going to just close it up and be good. One tip I'm going to give you is if you're doing this by yourself, use these clamps to hold the hoses in place. So here you can see I'm using one of them right here so it does not move while I'm pumping, and the other one right here. And now I can just go ahead and easily pump the fluid out from here into there. So this will save you from a bad day, because sometimes you're trying to pump and hold at the same time and then you can spill it. So this will save you the bad day. Okay, that clamp on made it really easy. I was able to pump this whole thing less than 5 minutes, and then I put the bolt in. Do not over torque this, you know, just tight it enough. You know, this is just a fill bolt, doesn't have to be, you don't have to go crazy on this. And then as you can see, I put the rag and everything right here so it didn't make a mess, and it was a very clean process. So now we're just gonna slide this thing up and put the two 10mm right there, put the wheel up, and then that's it. I'm not going to do the drain process. So there's a separate drain process that you have to open up you have to heat up the transmission to a certain temperature and then open up that drain plug, and then let it trickle down. But that process is not necessary if you if your vehicle is cold and you know, normally they do that at the shop, is because you drive the vehicle to the shop, and the transmission oil is hot, it's thinner, you know, you take it out, so you can't really measure what you took out, so you have to do it that way. If you're doing it at home, you know, park the car at night, don't drive it, you know, for a few hours. If you're doing it in the morning, you know, make sure you don't drive it. And if the oil is cold and you drain out the cold oil and you replace it with the same temperature oil, the level is going to be the same. And you know, so you don't really need to go through that tedious process of draining. Just put back in whatever you took out. Simple and easy. And that's exactly what I did. And you know, but if you're replacing the pan and all that stuff, then you have to go through that entire process, because it's really hard to capture what came out, you know, if you're removing the pan and all that stuff. You know, even though it's doable, you know, you just have to be careful. So again, use this one. This is really great. In fact, this is the exact same transmission oil that is also used in the power steering of the same car. I know it's you know, it was a surprise to me as well, but it is the exact same oil. So if you buy, so I just bought 5 quarts. I used it to flush my power steering fluid. I'll leave a link in the description below if you guys want to see that video. And then I used the exact same one, you know, so it was enough for me to do 5 quart bottle was enough for me to do the flush on the not the transmission, but the power steering fluid, and then also replace my transmission fluid, not all the way, but just draining it and refilling it, topping it off. So, and still I have about like 1 quart left, which is amazing. And that I can probably do instead of, like, you know, just removing that red thing. Even if I drain it, I'll probably can get like 1 quart, as you saw, and I can probably replace it at a later time. So okay, it's ready to go. Everything is done. Now we're gonna start it.